in another one of my brother's fragrances. Irish coffee. Should we do a review? So yes, good afternoon. It is that time of the week again. My brother's not here. I don't need to whisper. I can talk as loudly as I like because he is at work. And I have spoken about this fragrance before on the home treadmill where I've reviewed this coffee collection line by Fragrance World, but I've never done an individual fitness fragrance review of this one. And it is Irish coffee. Again, as I just mentioned, it's part of the Fragrance World coffee collection line. And I really want to review this one because I remember when I did that initial impressions video, I wasn't overly as keen on this one as some of the others. I felt a little bit underwhelmed. So if you haven't seen these sort of fitness fragrance reviews before, essentially I'm going to rank this fragrance on 5 categories during my walk today. So we're going to look at its price / value for money. We'll look at its versatility, how much you can use it in different situations. We'll also look at its projections, how much I noticed it during my walk. We'll look at its compliment factor. Do I think you can get compliments? And then at the end, we'll talk about longevity. And as I get near the end of my walk, can I still smell it? So yeah, what I'm going to quickly do though, I'm going to go into the note breakdown of this fragrance and tell you what's inside. Bit of a spoiler, I assume there must be some coffee in it. Don't know about anyone else, but I really do love coffee in fragrances. I think it's a really, really nice note that just gives you that comforting, calming feeling. I like that feeling of being in like a cafe. I love the smell of coffee in cafes, and I do like them in fragrances as well, as long as you've got some other lighter notes that don't make it feel too dark, too heavy, too roasted, essentially. So what's this one like? Is this one a really dark scent? Well, I'm going to spray a bit myself before I go into the note breakdown. Just a little bit. Sorry, Jack, for wasting your fragrance. I'm going to have to buy him some more, aren't I, at some point. But I'm at my computer, so I can tell you what is in this fragrance. So the top notes of Irish coffee by Fragrance World, we've got black pepper, which obviously gives a bit of spice. Davana. I don't know how you pronounce that one, I must admit, but it's a sweet herbal type note. And then in the heart, this is where I think the fragrance really comes into its own, though, to be honest with you. You've got coffee, you've got rum, you've got bran, and you've got rosemary, which adds a slight floral touch. What am I really getting at the moment from this initial impressions? You're definitely getting a bit of that spice from the black pepper and the coffee, but I actually think that rum, that boozy note here is very, very prominent, very nice, but it's not too dark, too heavy. Look, it's quite a dark juice, but it's not really intense. That's what I'd say, and that might be because of the notes that I'm just going to read to you in the base. So we've got a bit more coffee, we've got some more boozy notes, we've got whiskey and cognac. Again, that's probably adding to that boozy sweetness that I'm getting. But then you've got caramel and vanilla, and I do think that vanilla has just tamed this a little bit. It's not made it as dark, as bitter. It's a little bit nicer. It's a little bit more wearable, essentially. Patchouli, and then it's got a bit of sandalwood. Again, woody notes in fragrances. They had a little bit of a masculine edge, I tend to find. Again, might help support that spice. Sandalwood can be quite spicy or sparkling in its composition, which is probably complemented with the black pepper. And then it's got benzoin, which again is very, very popular in these sort of caramel type fragrances. And that adds a resinous, smoky vibe, which, if you probably hadn't mentioned it to me, I probably wouldn't have noticed that smokiness. It is there, though, in the background. It's almost the last thing you smell when you put it away from your top. Initially, you do definitely get those sweeter notes, the caramel, the vanilla. Certainly the rum, though, the boozy rum, a little bit like that Bentley for Men intense type vibe. Very pleasant. I have to say, I said I didn't really like this one when I tried it before. I had to change my mind. This one isn't bad at all. But how is it going to score today? So we're going to head out for my walk in a minute. We'll do all the 5 categories on there, and then I'll give an overall score out of 50 at the end. So yes, let's get out there. The sun is just about to break out. It's been foggy all morning today. So yeah, I will see you out there in a little bit. Go get my shoes on. Okay, and we are off. So price / value for money for Irish coffee. What is the price you find for this? Well, the best place to look, I'd say, for these fragrances from Fragrance World in that coffee collection is probably eBay. I remember buying double espresso from eBay, from Latino before, and it was about £19. It was on a sale. But then in recent times, the price on that one on there has gone up to like £40, £50. And on eBay, it stayed quite constant. It stayed around that £25 mark, like this one is, Irish coffee as well. So if you're interested in this coffee collection line, I probably would recommend eBay. And you're going to pay about £24. That's the price for this one. Do I think that's good value for money? 100% I do. Look, if you look at the note breakdown, again, it goes into many different scent profiles. It goes into floral components, goes into nutty components, woody components, those more sweet gourmand components like caramel and vanilla, obviously the boozy components, and obviously the main selling point of this one, it's also got coffee in it. Where I think you might be a little bit disappointed with this one is not to do with the quality. I think the quality here is just as good as Bentley for Men Intense, but it does have that slight Middle Eastern vibe. So if you know those fragrances, just be aware, you might get that slight feeling of, yeah, it does have that Middle Eastern vibe that some people aren't overly keen on. But I think it's very wearable. This one is very, very wearable. But the coffee doesn't feel prominent, even though I think it's very well blended, and I think they've blended this to the point where nothing feels like it shouldn't be in here. It's definitely more booze and caramel dominant than coffee dominant. And again, that's fine, because in that selection, in that line, double espresso is a real strong coffee one. So I don't think it makes this one redundant, because I think if this was really strong on coffee, compared to some of the other ones in this line, it would be redundant. But it is much more of a caramel boozy type scent, which for me personally, I absolutely like. But if you're buying this thinking, I want this to be a really strong coffee fragrance, this maybe isn't the one to go for. But I think it's more wearable, and I think more people actually enjoy this one because it smells more like a fragrance than you just, you smell a booze or anything like that. It's not really dominant on one particular note because of how well blended it is. So I think £24 is brilliant. I think there's a lot of care that goes into this. I don't tend to mention the bottles, but the bottle is really hefty on this one, and it just feels like they have prioritised this one. They really wanted to make a statement with these, and I think they've done that. I think the presentation's brilliant, and I think it really, yeah, it backs it up with the scent as well. So I'm going to give price/value for money. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to go 9 out of 10. I think it's a very good scent. I certainly enjoyed it more than when I first smelt it a few months ago. Okay then, so on to versatility for Irish coffee. How much can you dress this one up, dress this one down? Different ages, different occasions, different seasons, all those things. Well, I was just having a little think, and I honestly can say this might be my scent for the end of 2026, my winter 2026 scent. Because even though it's definitely got vibes of a Ferragamo Uomo or Zorro Wanted by Night, and even a Bentley for Men Intense, it's got something different to all those phrases that makes you think, yeah, I can go for a change without being too daring, being too different. Because again, Bentley for Men Intense obviously doesn't have coffee in it, but it has those nice boozy notes. And exactly the same with like Ferragamo Uomo. Yeah, it has some coffee notes in it, but it doesn't have those boozy vibes, which I really like, which makes this one stand out in its own right. So it gives you a slight change of pace without being too different, which I really enjoy. And again, for a similar price or a little bit cheaper. I also think if you're someone who's a little bit younger, who wants a slight step up in quality, in sense, say you've been wearing like a Pack or a Bam 1 Million, it gives you that nice change up and it makes you feel a little bit more grown up. And it's also very seductive. It's got that seductive, alluring quality. Those notes in it are very, very seductive. Boozy notes, sweet boozy notes, always popular in expensive scents. And caramel vanilla just seems to be in everything, doesn't it, these days? So certainly date night occasions, perfect dress up occasions, absolutely great. And even, the fact it's got some floral components in it, and I never think black pepper's a really strong note. Gives it that masculine edge where you could certainly wear it in a sort of climate-controlled office environment. I think it would work very well, and you get some good comments from this one. The only thing that marks this one down for me in terms of versatility is it's obviously not going to work for those summer daytime casual wear type of situations. And obviously someone like myself who likes to keep active, you're going to want something else to complement this one. Certainly as the weather warms up and the weather improves, or if you're on the go doing errands all day, you're going to want something a bit fresher like a blue fragrance. So it does exactly what it's meant to be. Well, I just got attacked by a bee then. It does exactly what it's meant to do. It's meant to be more of that nighttime productive wear. But yeah, it's not one where I think it could be your signature scent for the whole year. But anyone 20 and up, certainly more masculine, someone who's trying to impress, someone in particular at work, for example, it's brilliant. And I think it'll work really well. So I'm going to give versatility a 7.5 out of 10. It does exactly what it says on the tin, but you're still going to feel like you need another one to complement this in those warmer, more casual scenarios. Right, we're going to go on to projection next. How much am I nosing it during my walk at the minute? Well, it certainly is very, very foggy at the moment. It looked like the sun was breaking out, and now it's suddenly changed again. It's gone back to being foggy like this morning. But how's my fragrance projecting? If someone couldn't see me right now, could they smell me before they see me, essentially, with Irish coffee? To be honest with you, it's probably not as strong as I thought it was going to be. Look, the juice in it, when you look at the bottle, it's actually quite a dark juice. It's quite a dark brown sort of juice. Almost looks like caramel, doesn't it? But it's certainly not as strong as double espresso, which is in their line. I don't think that's a bad thing with this though. Again, it makes it more wearable, so we just done versatility. But the fact it isn't really overpowering, I think it makes it better. It's not one where I think if you walk by someone, they're going to notice your scent trail. I think it's going to be one, again, where say someone's sitting next to you for a period of time, they're going to notice it best. And again, I think that's what this fragrance should be. It's built more for those intimate type settings, those intimate scenarios where someone might just want to get a bit close to you. And I think that's great. And I think what it also allows you to do is say it's a really cold evening, it's frosty outside. Sometimes you quite like something, you know, say you've got a fire at home, like a little fireplace. I think it'd be really quite nice to wear just for yourself at times as well. And that, yeah, that wearability actually is better because the projection isn't as good. So for that reason, I'm not going to mark it down too much here. I don't think it would fill a room. Obviously, I'd normally do a room fill test if I'm doing a morning workout with this one. I don't think it would fill a room, or it certainly wouldn't last, you know, any longer than an hour in terms of that. But that's great. That makes it more wearable for me. So I'm not going to be too critical here. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I always say this word, but it does. It hits the sweet spot. And yeah, that projection's more than wearable. It makes me feel like, even though it can be quite heavy, these sort of notes, I could wear this one back-to-back days and not feel like I've had enough of it. Right, we're going to go on to compliment factor next. Do I think this one would get compliments? We're going to move on to compliment factor now, and I literally just smelt my coat before I could record on this. And I've noticed it is starting to smell more prominent of coffee. And it feels like the boozy notes are now taking a bit more of a back seat. And I just wonder if that's because coffee is in the sort of heart or the middle of the fragrance and the dry down. It's giving it that extra staying power while the other notes are wearing off. So it's now taking more of that centre role. But to be honest with you, even if that didn't come through, even if the boozy notes had stuck more, I still think this is a great compliment getting fragrance. You know, the caramel and vanilla is still very prominent, and as we know, they are in men's and women's fragrances and almost in all those sort of date night seductive type scents. Caramel and vanilla, gourmand fragrances in general, they're just so popular. They're the in thing at the minute, and this one has basically got almost all those notes that everyone really likes, whether it's coffee, vanilla, boozy notes, even some woods. It's very, very mass pleasing. The only thing I can mark this one down for, and I say mark it down, it's not that I'm marking it, I'm not going to really mark it down for this, is it does have that slight Middle Eastern type vibe. Again, I don't think it's a specific note, but if you've had Middle Eastern fragrances, whether that's a Rafflewood Intense, an Al Rahab Choco Musk, you will be able to tell there's something about them. If you were blindfolded, you'd be able to say, yeah, that's one of those Middle Eastern fragrances. Not that they feel, you know, they're not unpleasant, that's why I own them all, but they feel maybe more suited to a climate. If you're in a Dubai, you know, in Dubai as a waiter or something, or you know, as an executive there, and maybe someone who's living in a Western climate like the UK and US, but it's still got the mass appeal here. It's not that that affects the mass appeal, but if you're not someone who's a massive fan of those Middle Eastern scents, this may not be for you. So I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. I'd happily wear this over a Bentley for Men Intense, or a, you know, Ferragamo Uomo for a date night, or in a situation where I want to make a good statement in a suit and tie networking event. So yeah, 9.5. This is built for compliments. Then it's time to smell my coat and test for longevity. I've only got about 20 minutes left on my walk. Now I do apologise, I'm still sniffly. I'm very, very sniffly. I can't get rid of this cold out of my nose at the minute. I do feel better though. But in terms of longevity, how strong is it compared to when I started this walk? So it's been about an hour and a half. It's probably about 55% as strong. It's definitely not as strong as some of the other ones in this coffee collection line. Again, I touched upon what I said earlier though. I think that makes it more wearable. But you might, on a cool day, if you're trying to be quite brash and in your face and trying to get big compliments from someone, you might potentially want to reapply this and take it with you just to get that extra strength. I think the more you spray this one, the more this one would last. It's got quite a dark juice, and I do think the quality of the oils in this are very good, which will give it that extra staying power. But yeah, it's not really heavy, it's not really strong. So I'm going to say for longevity here, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I'm so bored of saying this, but I think it just hits exactly what it should be. This is one of their more wearable ones in that coffee collection line, and that's great. I feel like if I had all four, because there's four my brother's had, there might be more in that line, but my brother's got one called Caramel Macchiato, got double espresso, he's got Affogato, which is more of an ice cream one, which I really like, and this one. I feel like out of the four, this would be the bottle I finished maybe the quickest, because it is that most wearable, and the longevity on it is certainly, It's probably not quite as good as a Bentley for Men Intense, but it's certainly not far behind. And if you know that one, it'll get you through the day on those cold weather conditions. And I think on the whole, this one would as well. As long as you're not getting too hot and bothered and it's a coolish day, I think you'll still be able to smell it by the end of the night on your clothing. So yeah, 7.5 does what it says on the tin. So the hardest bit of doing a full review while out on a walk is I have to count up all the scores in one go, but I think I've managed to get it right now. So considering we did 5 categories, so we did price less value for money, we did versatility, we did projection, we did compliment factor, and we did longevity. How did it score in total out of 50? It's done really well. It's got 41.5, and that's certainly a lot higher than I thought I was going to give it when I started doing this review. And maybe the reason I didn't like or didn't think I liked it as much when I initially smelt this was because I was smelling it alongside some of the other fragrances in that coffee collection line. And it's definitely not as unique as those, but this is a scent DNA that you've smelt many times. Again, Wanted by Night, Ferragamo Women, Benny for Men Intense. It's got nuances of all of them, so you're not going to go, oh, this isn't, anything different from what I've smelt before. Maybe that's what put me off. But now I've given it a bit more time. I'm smelling it in its own right. I've, just let it sit for an hour and a half. That coffee's coming through a bit more, and it certainly now feels like it deserves to be part of that coffee collection line. I think initially I just thought it smelled boring. It's not boring. It's high quality, and look, it's a lot cheaper than some of those ones I've mentioned there as well. Some of those Wanted by Night fragrances and the flankers, they're getting very expensive, and this one can certainly stand up against those in terms of being, seductive, alluring, and an element of coziness. I really like that gourmand. I'm a massive fan of gourmand fragrances. I love it when it comes to winter fragrances, and you make that transition from your summer ones. I just think they add that extra complexity, and this has got a lot of complexity in it. You cannot fault the fact it's put in floral components, put in spicy components, and they've managed to make it work for a very good price. So yeah, this might be in my collection at the end of the year as well. And I think, to be honest, it could have got a bigger score on projection if my nose wasn't so bunged up and blocked. So it might be what I have to do a re-review, in the future, and that it may even get more than 41.5. But either way, 41.5 is a very big total. And yeah, my brother knows his fragrances. He wouldn't have bought this one if he didn't think it was good. And I do trust his judgment at times. Certainly with fragrances, maybe not on other things. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one today. There'll be plenty more reviews to come as well. And I've got a few new concept ideas coming up soon. I've got a bit of holiday coming up soon, so I'm going to try to put some of those into practice, and I hope you enjoy those as well. But thanks for watching today. I'll catch you later.